Hello there. Thank you so much for joining us. This is News Channel Nebraska. Let's take a look at our top headlines today. Beginning in central Nebraska, where two Kearney school administrators will have to undergo depositions as part of an ongoing legal claim involving the former high school girls basketball coach. A Buffalo County District Court judge issued a decision this week overruling a motion to quash deposition subpoenas. Those subpoenas part of a lawsuit filed by J.D. Carson. He resigned as coach amid pressure from school officials last fall. The ruling means Superintendent Jason Mundorf and high school principal Jeff Gans will need to appear for depositions. Carson filed the lawsuit back in February, alleging 6 counts of defamation. 2 of those counts were dismissed. The remaining 4 counts don't name a defendant. In court documents, Carson says he was falsely accused of being in a sexual relationship with a player. Severe weather hit southeast Nebraska this week, but a neighborhood in Falls City didn't let it ruin the Lane Street trick-or-treating tradition. Dan Swanson has more.
The Richardson County Commissioners declared a disaster Thursday after a damaging storm ripped truckloads of limbs from trees, overturned 13 cars of a train, peeled the roof off an Air Lanco facility, and severed electrical service to the community. But County Commissioner Rick Cara said Lane Street trick-or-treaters have the green light. Neighborhood leader Holly Westengard said kids were invited until dark on Halloween and from 5 to 8 p.m. today.
We call it Hallow Lane, and we moved here about 8.5 years ago, and we're told, hey, get ready for Halloween. It's going to be a big deal. You'll have maybe from 500 to 1,000 trick-or-treaters.
By late Thursday, the west side of Lane Street had electricity restored, but the east side was still waiting. Jay and Sherry Moorhead are among 670 homeowners across the nation that use their Halloween decorations to benefit St. Jude Children's Hospital.
We get a lot of kids and we get a lot of adults that come through and they enjoy it. So this storm kind of messed everything up. So I had another 12-footer sitting back over there and it broke him off. Oh, there's our first trick-or-treater.
The county's disaster declaration says the damage was caused by straight-line winds, and the National Weather Service equipment recorded a wind gust of 90 miles per hour. But Sheriff Rick Hardy is not convinced. He said with the roof torn off of the manufacturing plant, the train derailment and widespread power outage have people wondering if the city was not hit by a rare October tornado. The sheriff says there was a 50-foot path of damage. An RV was turned sideways. A side-by-side was moved from front of the house to the back, and another homeowner experienced having the family dog sucked out through the front door. A sheriff's deputy said the dog was able to get turned around and back into the house safely. Economic developer Lucas Frischel said electricity had been restored to portions of the commercial district and industrial sites. He said the city is hopeful that all power will be restored late Halloween. From Falls City, I'm Dan Swanson, News Channel Nebraska.
While we can do without the heavy winds, the rain's certainly welcome. October, one of the driest months ever recorded in U.S. history. As of October 25th, the average precipitation across the entire lower 48 was less than an inch. Only 5 months out of 129 years on record have ended with less than an inch of average precipitation over the entire lower 48. That's according to data from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Nebraska had among its driest Octobers on record, but with the start of a new month, wetter weather is on the way. The Climate Prediction Center's latest forecast shows nearly the entire lower 48 likely to have wetter than normal conditions to begin the month. Well, as we near Election Day and as Nebraskans head to the polls, our team of reporters at News Channel Nebraska doing their part to simplify things, to help voters make informed decisions on Nebraska's ballot initiatives. Jake Bartecki now breaks down Initiative 434.
As Nebraskans get set to head to the polls next Tuesday, several different ballot initiatives will appear on the 2024 ballot, including 2 competing abortion measures. LB 434 would prohibit abortion after the first trimester. A vote for 434 supports amending the state constitution to ban abortion after the first trimester unless deemed necessary by a medical emergency or the pregnancy is a result of sexual assault or incest. Assistant Professor of Law at the University of Nebraska, Lincoln, Brandon Johnson, explains more. So I guess kind of just give us an overview of 434.
If you vote no on 434 because you want 439 to be governing law, right? Well, if 439 gets more votes, in the language of the Constitution, right, it becomes the paramount provision. Well, then there's now a fundamental right to abortion up until fetal viability.
A yes vote on competing initiative 439 supports amending the state constitution to establish a right to abortion until fetal viability. Meanwhile, 434 adds a level of restriction prohibiting abortion after the first trimester or the first 3 months of a pregnancy. If both measures fail, the legislature can continue to regulate abortion as they see fit, subject to the courts.
It would essentially prevent any second or third trimesters that don't abortions that don't fall into that exception. What it will allow, though, is the government can continue to restrict abortion beyond that first trimester.
In 2024, 11 statewide ballot measures exist on ballots across the country, setting a record for a single year. It's a big deal nationwide, and Nebraska's no different. It's the first time Nebraska's had conflicting initiatives go through the process.
It's kind of complicated as well if you want only one of them to pass. And so explaining to voters, look, if you want 434 to be governing law, you need to vote against 439. If you want 439 to be governing law, you need to vote against 434. That's more complicated than a typical initiative.
Reporting for News Channel Nebraska, I'm Jake Bartecki.
Norris Public Power District and an Arkansas-based company called Today's Power are planning a commercial solar power installation southwest of Beatrice. The Gage County Board held a public hearing on the project, which would be located on property owned by Jeff Hayes. Norris Public Power District Engineering Director Jerry Enns says locking in a low-cost power supply is a reason the district is building these operations in its 6-county area.
We have solar installations in Lancaster County. There's a 1 megawatt site that was energized over a year ago. It's right next to our Centerville operations office in Lancaster County. There's a site under construction right now, should be online by the end of the year in Saline County, just right adjacent to the village of Tobias. We have one installed in the Ruby, Nebraska area up in Seward County. And we have one operating over in Thayer County near the village of Deschler.
And says the single-axis solar panels track the sun throughout the day and reset themselves for the next day. Formal action on the special use permit for the solar installation will be taken by the county board at a meeting later this month. Well, a Lutheran school in need of major improvements in northeast Nebraska is finally getting them. In fact, it amounts to a complete overhaul. Hanky Hazelton gives us a look.
We're building an activity center that also has an adjoining commons area with some new offices and a new kitchen concessions area, some new bathrooms, and a new library.
As the building continues to grow in size, so does the anticipation from the students on why this is such a big deal. With the biggest topic of discussion, the old gym that you are seeing here, on why things needed to change.
It's hard to practice in this gym that has a lower ceiling than you're used to. And for basketball, when you're standing out of bounds, you're like on the wall, and it's hard to get balls in volleyball when you can't go out of bounds, or serving.
Sometimes if it's like wet outside or something, we'll recess in here, and then it could be like 5th through 8th, and it's just a ton of people in here, and there's just so much going on.
Well, Hazel and Luke, you and the students of St. Paul Lutheran School were heard loud and clear, and now your wish has been granted.
The decision was made to build a regulation-sized gym where we have room and the sidelines for the kids to stand out of bounds in a basketball game, a full three-point line, a ceiling high enough where kids can play volleyball without worrying about the ball hitting the ceiling.
The build is far from over, but to give life to an enormous project, it takes funds to see it through. And to see it through, it takes help from everyone.
A couple of years ago, we had a fund drive. It was a capital campaign that our church put on, actually. Our kids played a massive role in that. We really pushed our congregation members of St. Paul's Church to try and fund this building project. But then there's also lots of efforts going on to say we're looking for community partners, people in the community that really value Christian education, that want to see good traditional values taught to their kids. We know there are people out there like that want to support efforts like ours, and we'd love to partner with them.
After talking with Scott, the building committee chairman, he said that their hope was to have this build done by basketball season, but things have fallen a little bit behind, and if things do continue to go forward, their goal is to have this and everyone in this space by April of 2025. In Norfolk, Hanky Hazelton, News Channel Nebraska.
And finally, it is that time of year to fall back and potentially get an extra hour of sleep, although you'll probably just wake up an hour earlier. Daylight savings time ends on Sunday at 2 a.m. Daylight saving time runs from the second Sunday in March to the first Sunday in November. The idea has been to maximize use of more daylight hours in the spring and summer months, save on energy consumption, but the practice has its detractors. Lawmakers at both the local and federal levels have pushed over the years to make daylight saving time permanent. The Senate in 2022, in fact, approved a measure to make daylight saving time permanent, but the bill never came to the House. A push to end daylight savings time in Nebraska, meanwhile, didn't make it past the debate stage in the unicameral this past year. And you can stay up to date with the very latest, regardless of what time it is, by heading to our website, newschannelnebraska.com, and clicking on the News tab. There you can also follow us on X, like us on Facebook and Instagram as well. Thanks for joining us. Have a great weekend. You're watching News Channel Nebraska.